Hey, 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 you know what day it is. What day is it? It's Tuesday Tea with D. Come on, Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. It's Tuesday Tea with D. 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 Tuesday Tea with Tuesday Tea with Tuesday Tea with D. Hey, boo, hey, it's your girl, Detra Trueheart, your life purpose generator, purpose provoker, and your personal life coach here with another weekly dose of Tuesday Tea with D. And so, as you can see, I'm trying something new. This is a space that I have that I don't spend as much time as I would like. And so I am really trying to separate like home and work and have concentrated spaces where I do like all the things. And so I think this is going to be a new space. This is not the first time that I have recorded from this space, but I'm thinking that it's definitely going to be a space where I can I'm just kind of making sure we're good here. This is going to be a space where I can do more work, where the Tuesday Tea with D's are going to be. And then I've got like different spaces in here that I can do some of the stuff that I want to do. So let me know how you like it. Go me. And so this is also around this conversation, which is not the conversation we're going to have today around using what you have. As you can see, child, I got all the things and I do not be using them. And so I really want to steward what I have because I had literally, child, I don't just have enough. I have more than enough resources and tools to really make this thing work. And so I'm committed to doing that in 2024. So today's tea is a pineapple tea. It is another, I guess, homemade pineapple, another homemade tea. So I make my ginger tea. This is made from pineapple. This is made from the pineapple skin and the pineapple core. And it's got a cinnamon stick. It's got cloves in it and minimal honey because the pineapple is sweet. And I've already tasted it, and it is good. Mm, this is so good. I think I found another new tea. So, if you know anything about me, I am not a like health guru expert type of person. Like, I like to try things that have health benefits to it, but I'm not the kind of person where like I'm going all overboard. And really, where this came from was my son loves pineapples. And I had been hearing when I was actually Googling the turmeric tea, the ginger tea and the turmeric and a couple of other things, people were using pineapple. And so I started thinking, like, well, what are the health benefits of pineapples? And so there are lots of health benefits. Child, I did not list them. I don't have those here today. But then it also started talking about the skin and the core. And so, of course, I had to do a Google me, baby, a Google me, baby. Okay. So I had to Google it and, between TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, all the things. And so, yeah, so here we are. We've transitioned from the ginger tea to the pineapple tea, and I love it. And so it's probably, I've done it like a couple times, but lately I've been drinking it like every day for the last few days. It's really, really, really good. So, if you try it, let me know. I don't necessarily somebody on my Facebook group, on my Facebook page asked like, can I tell the difference? I'm not sure yet. Because to be honest, I don't really be paying too much attention. I just kind of like, you just wake up and be like, oh, I feel better. I'm sleeping better. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't really have issues sleeping. I don't feel any kind of way. I'm really just trying to slim down, but outside of slimming down, so I can fit my clothes. So I can fit my clothes. I'm really I just want to be healthy, right? I'm trying to be my best me that I can be. I'm literally trying to, I want to be 100 plus, like living, walking, like I want to be feisty. I want my son to be telling me to sit down like at 110. You know what I'm saying? And so all the things that I can do in order to do that, that's what I want to do. Point blank, period. So today's conversation actually stems from this is another extension from my Monday morning walk talk that I do in my Facebook group. And yesterday's conversation was around like things that I did or things that you can do when literally kind of like because last week we talked about routines, and so specifically in the Facebook group, rhythms and routines, and what kind of rhythms do you have set up so that you can kind of show up as your best self, and so that life is just kind of like flowing with grace and ease and all that kind of stuff, right? You're doing the work, but right, just to kind of cut down some of the stress, whatever. And so a couple of people had asked like, well, like life is life and right now, like I'm not even sure kind of like what that looks like how do you handle that? And so I promised that I would do that this week, and I did. And so as an extension of that, I really want to have conversation with you about this because I do know that you may not be in my Facebook group, and I just want to have this conversation really kind of like on a deeper level, and talk a little bit about what I didn't talk about in the Facebook group. So it's kind of like a part 2, and so if you want part 1, then you have to go into the Facebook group, but I'm going to talk a little bit about more of it today. So what to do when life is lifing, and that's what I called today's tea, right? Because honey, life be lifing. The people be peopling, the world be worlding, the kids be kidding, the spouses be spousing in, like all the things, right? I'll talk a little bit about my 90-minute strategy session as well as the inner circle a little bit later. But I want to jump right into this conversation because it was a really good conversation that we had. And I was even led to pray at the end, which I very rarely do just because I like to get in, drop a little motivation, drop a little nugget here and there, and then like that's it. So, and the reason I shared this is because I know what it's like when the floor drops like right up under you, right? When it just opens up and you like, wait a minute, am I being punked? Like, is this like what's really going on here? And so I wanted to have this conversation because I think we very seldom have these conversations when, before it happens, right? And so part of the rhythm and the routine for me was having a conversation with you around things that you can do now. Like, what are the rhythms? What are the tools? What are the things that you have in your toolbox that you can access so that when it does happen, not only are you not necessarily because you're going to be caught off guard, but you kind of have some things to kind of work through it, right? And so a few of the things that I shared in the Facebook group, one of the very first things that I talked about was the fact that I cried, child. Like when some of the things that have happened in my life, and when literally I was at the point where like that thing broke me, I cried. And so I talked about making sure that you feel the feels, right? You have emotions. Like you're not just this superhuman, and it's crazy because I saw this shirt that said like Black women are superheroes, and it talks, and then I saw another shirt that it was like moms are like super moms, or they're like super something. And I just have decided that I'm not subscribing to that because as a strong friend, as the one who sometimes tends to be the reliable kid, the reliable child, or the whatever, right? You're the person who everybody comes to. And so there's this assumption that you're a superhero. And so for me, I've just decided I'm not going to subscribe to it. I'm not buying anything that says I'm a superhero because I'm not a superhero. Like people used to be like, oh my God, like you're just so. And I remember just saying, like, stop calling me that, because I think that when people continue to see you that way, then they assume that you don't have feelings, and they assume that you're not human, right? And so one of the things that I shared in the Facebook group was give yourself permission to be human. Feel the feels, cry the cries, scream the screams, right? Listen, cry into the pillow, like, throw the pillow. You know what I'm saying? Go to the kickboxing class, whatever it is that you need to do in order to feel the feelings and kind of like process them, do that. Right. So for me, I cry. Like what do I do when life is lifing? I cry if I need to. What do I do when life is lifing? I journal. I pray. I take naps. Excuse me, you know that I am a big napper. I believe in napping, and there is research that shows that napping, there are like healing powers in napping, right? Just restorative powers in napping and resting. And so for me, I would take naps, right? I gave myself permission not to have all the answers. I gave myself permission to not try to figure it all out and try to kind of make sense of a thing that really didn't make sense. Like sometimes I think you have to kind of just say, it don't make sense. I'm tired of trying to figure out how to make it make sense. And I'm just going to let it be a not make sense situation. Can we just agree on that? I just agreed that I was going to be okay with it not making sense and that it would make sense whenever God wanted it to make sense. You know what I'm saying? Because you'll drive yourself crazy trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. You will drive yourself crazy trying to put all the pieces together and there are pieces missing. And then you're looking for the pieces and the pieces are not there, honey. Like they just ain't there. And so when life is lifing, I think you got to be okay with everything not coming together, right? And you got to be okay with being human, right? And so, as believers in Christ, the scripture says that and this was specifically when Paul was saying how he had talked to God and was just like, I asked him to take this thorn out of my side 3 times, right? And he says that my grace is sufficient, right? And so in that space, he was really talking about, being able to do, what he had been called to do in that moment. And that literally he didn't take the thorn away. And so there's some moments where we don't take the thorn away, right? And then there in other moments where the Lord says that my grace is sufficient. Your strength is made power. My strength is made powerful in your weakness. And so I think, and some of the scripture says it's perfected. And so I think it's okay that we can lean into our Heavenly Father's right? His strength when we are not strong. And, and that goes back to when people say like, oh, you're so strong. And it's just like, no, I'm not strong. I lean into something higher than me and something stronger than me that allows me to be able to walk through this thing called life when life is lifing. And so when you can step into that with the understanding that you don't always have to be strong, when you walk into a thing knowing that you don't always have to have understanding, that you can walk into a thing also understanding that you don't owe people an explanation. One of the things that we talked about was understanding and giving yourself permission that you didn't have to do anything that you don't have capacity for, right? And so give yourself permission to not do things that you don't have strength. Like sometimes peopling is overwhelming. Sometimes being around people is too much. Sometimes because, when people see you, they want to treat you like a puppy. And it's just like, don't pet me, don't coddle me. Like if you're not one of my people, don't touch me. Like, I'm just saying. And so sometimes you just don't have capacity for it, right? And so if you're on committees, you're on boards, if you're, running some things, who is your second in command? And sometimes just saying, I know like I'm probably going to drop the ball on this, but the ball had already been dropped on me. And so I really need to take some time to just kind of figure out what I want to do in this moment. And so give yourself permission to not do things that you don't have capacity for, that you don't have margin for, that you don't have strength for, right? That you don't have it, right? And so sometimes we find ourselves doing things just because we got to do it. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. So I want you to feel comfortable in that space because sometimes, being the strong person, the reliable person, we tend to do things out of obligation. And you've heard me say this, that sometimes you have to stop doing things out of obligation and do them out of assignment, and sometimes out of alignment and assignment. And so sometimes the alignment and the assignment is to go sit yourself down because you don't have capacity for it. Right. Well, one of the things that I also did was I leaned into my tribe. And so here are a couple things that I didn't do. And I had a list of things that I wrote down that I shared in the Facebook group, just because I couldn't have my phone because I was on it and I couldn't be walking with 2 phones. But one of the things that I also talked about was this idea around praying, talking to God. I talk to God all the time, right? And so when we talk about praying without ceasing, like it's communication, right? It's literally just like talking without limit. Like there's no like, oh, I'm going to wait for a certain time. And so I was always having conversation with God. I was always in conversation with him. I was always like, bruh, Like, yeah, bruh, like, how long we going? And there have been different moments in my life where worship music was the thing that got me through. Like, there's some songs that I hear to this day that I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing and what I was going through. Do you like, if we was together, I would say, give me a, and let me know in the comment below if you're watching this and you like, yeah, child, like me too. Like, there's some moments that I just remember listening. Like, there is a Donnie, I was gonna say Donnie Sat, McClurkin, Donnie McClurkin, and Marvin Sapp, two of my favorites. There are a few songs on their albums that if I could have, like, at the time, I don't know if tapes were like transitioning out at that time. That tells you, right, at that moment. And see, I think it was tapes and CDs, but I think specifically I had CDs. But if I could have played them things until I couldn't play them no more, honey, I would have played them until I couldn't play them no more. And it's weird because when I hear there's certain songs, when I hear them, I know exactly where I was and I know exactly what I was doing, right? And there are some moments where I was in my room on the floor crying out to God. There were moments where I was in the car worshiping. Moments, I remember one specific song that I heard. I was in Indianapolis getting my first master's degree, in the room worshiping God. Like, I remember. And so you got to be able to, again, what are the tools that you're going to need when life is lifing, when things don't make sense, when the math is not mathing, when, it ain't multiplying or adding, it's doing all division and all subtraction, and you trying to figure out what. The other thing, let me just take a sip of this good old tea here, that I did was I leaned into my tribe. And so I'm grateful for my tribe. And if y'all are watching, y'all know who y'all are, who called me, checked on me, brought me food, cash apped me, DoorDash food for me, just came and knocked on the door and sat with me, like, just. And it's not a large group of them. It's a small group, right? It's kind of like, Jesus and his three. Like, I had, like, it was a small group, and just being there. And so you need to lean into your tribe. There are moments where I would just text and be like, I'm having a moment, I'm not good. Or I will text and say, hey, do you have a minute? Like, I just need to get this out. And so you want to be able to have a tribe. And I get it. Sometimes people say, well, I don't have that. And I shared in the iSpeaklife Society, which is my free Facebook group, that is the space. Like, I'm in a space now where there's this duality of the work that I'm called to create safe and soft places for women, powerful women to land, but also for safe and soft spaces and secure spaces for them to catapult, right? And so in one aspect, it gives you an opportunity to get yourself positioned to catapult and take off, right? But then in another position, if you just need to incubate for a moment, you can do that too. And so, because y'all, if you know me, I'm like, listen, let's get it done. Let's get it cracking, cack-a-lacking, all the things. And then in other moments, I'm like, okay, well, grant yourself grace, right? Like, it don't have to be done that way, or this, or don't overthink it. And so I'm really in prayer around, like, what that language looks like when I'm talking to people, because I think sometimes in some instances, like, it's like, yes, I have all of these amazing things going on, but at the same time, I also need a safe space to land. I need a tribe of women where I can just kind of be without any of the titles, any of the roles, any of the responsibilities, and where folks is not calling my name 24/7, and I can just be me. Which is why I created my event coming up in December. Literally the event where women who pour out come to get poured back into. That's literally the purpose of the event, right? It is to speak life back into you. It is to restore, to refresh, to renew. And so even the spaces that I create from my free Facebook group, my membership community, as well as my high ticket community, all of those spaces are meant for women to be able to have both a soft, sacred, and secure space to land, but also to be catapulted, right? So I say all of that to say, have you a tribe, right? Who is your tribe? If you don't have a tribe, like, listen, we're here, right? Until you can find some people, we're here to support. We had a moment last week in our inner circle where one of our sisters, the inner circle sisters, she was just like, listen, she was at that moment where life was life and big, right? And we didn't have to know all of the details. And so I called her sisters to speak into her and to love on her. And so at that level, at the inner circle, which is my membership community, my responsibility there, I know, is to equip women, God's daughters, for the kingdom, right? To equip kingdom women for the kingdom. And in that, it's not necessarily about the teachings or whatever. In some instances, it really is about the activation of what's already in you. It's already about, me helping you to discover and to tap into something that you know is there. You just have not been given an opportunity to cultivate it, right? And so, with that being said, right, I'd love for you to be a part of the inner circle. Because I'm already talking about it, let's talk about this commercial right here. And I really want you to think about joining the inner circle, right? And so this is my membership community. It's a paid membership community. It's $470 for the year, $47 for the month. And every month we come together for monthly teaching as well as accountability, goal setting, girlfriend time. And it really is just an opportunity for you to focus on you, because knowing the woman that I'm called to, you spend a lot of time focused on everybody else, whether it's your work, whether it's the community work you do, the church, whether it's your family or whatever. And so a lot of times for me to ask you, what do you like to do for fun, or what makes you happy, or what that doesn't have to do with all the people who you do things for, many times you're not sure, right? Or to really sit down and say, okay, I'm going to sit down and look at my schedule so that I'm aware of like what I have going on, so I'm not overwhelmed when things come up, right? There's some other things that I've been in prayer about around what I really want to add to the inner circle. And so I want you to join. You're personally invited, right? I believe there is a trial where you can try it out for 7 days. It's 7 days for $7. And then after that, you automatically get enrolled for 47 or the 470, whichever one you sign up for. But I really, for me, community is important, right? There was this overarching theme, not only yesterday in the free Facebook group, but then also last week for Inner Circle, for women to really understand that they don't have to go through alone. You do not have to go through alone. And so if you're not part of my Facebook group, I want you to be a part of the Facebook group as well. But more importantly, I want you to join the inner circle, right? So again, that's that. I leaned into my tribe. I accepted help. I asked for help. I talked to God all day. I didn't do anything that I didn't have capacity for. I felt the feelings. I napped. I prayed. I journaled. I wrote a lot. And that was my way of processing my feelings when certain things were, I just had to get it out because I didn't want to hold it. I still journal as a way of releasing and expressing, what I have going on. And then again, like I said, I cried, right? I'm sure there's a couple other things that I shared in the Facebook group. So I'd love for you to go and check that out, because there were some other nuggets that God dropped for me to share specifically in that community. But when life is lifing, I think it's important for you to just be okay with being human. Like, you are not a superhero. You do not have superpowers. I don't care, how much people say we don't have. I'm okay with not having powers. Yes, I can get things done. Yes, I can make things happen. But honey, listen, pass the torch to somebody else. I don't want the cape. I don't want the shield, unless it's the shield of faith, right? Or the breastplate of righteousness. I don't want none of it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm okay in this season with literally saying no and having do nothing days and having days where I can just be and drink my tea. You hear me? So I'm going to stop there. There are other things that I think can be done. I mean, I think you want to think about like what's in your toolbox. What are the things that you do when life is lifing? Do you need to run? Do you need to, do any form of exercise, whether it's walk, run, go on a bike ride? Do you need to go by the water? Do you need to take a car drive? Do you need to take a bath? Do you need to pray? Do you need to go to therapy? Do you need to call your pastor? What is it that you need in that toolbox? And I'm saying it now because a lot of times we wait until we're in a thing to think about the kind of supports and the kind of tools that we're going to need in order to get through it, right? So those are some of the things that I did. Hopefully they were helpful. Please let me know if they were helpful. I'm sure there are 100 other things that I can think of, but I think from the most humanistic standpoint, I did the things that just kind of allowed me to be me and allowed me to be human, right? And so there were moments where I fasted so that I could hear, because my brain was foggy from whatever I was going through. I was okay with the fact, I wasn't okay with it, but I have a different, a greater understanding and an appreciation for, and I won't say an appreciation, but when people say like you, I don't break, I bend. And for me, there were situations where I broke. Like, child, it broke me all the way down, right? Broke me wide open. And so I don't necessarily subscribe to that either, right? I don't subscribe to like I don't break, I bend. Child, I was broke, right? Yes, I was broke. And I shared this in the Facebook group yesterday as well. There are some things that have to be broken, right? And so there is no breakthrough without a breaking. There is no oil without the crushing of the olive. There is no, like, right? And so there is no fruit if there is no breaking of the seed. When the seed is put in the dirt, there is a breaking so that the plant can come through. Like, there is a process of breaking that has to take place. And I think that we minimize that. I think that we minimize it. I don't think that we talk about it enough, because we want to minimize it or make it seem like it's not like as bad. And sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's horrible, sometimes it's like the worst thing ever. And but on the other side of it, it's like, man, like, I didn't like it. Like, I know sometimes it's like, oh, no, I don't. I didn't like it, I don't like it. And on the other side of it, I have a greater appreciation for what God had did in me and what I learned. But the process itself, I think we want to have real honest conversations about, sometimes it sucks to go through. Sometimes it sucks when life is lifing. Sometimes it sucks when you're in it, right? And so you make the best of it, right? You show up when you need to show up. You do what you have to do sometimes, because sometimes you don't have anybody, right? And so when you don't have anybody, you need these tools. You need to pray, you need to cry, you need to journal, you need to, go get in your car, and during your lunch break, you need to be away from people so that you can just not be overstimulated by everything that's going on. There's so many different things. And I want to just make sure, like, just as your coach, as a strategist, um, just as somebody who, I understand the tools and the different things that I used. I want to be able to share those just in case you don't have any, or just in case you're like, oh, well, I have all of those. Like, and I didn't even think about it that way. Because sometimes you got everything, you just don't know. And you're like, oh, I need to be using this a little bit more. I might need to have a good cry. I might need to tap into my emotions a little bit. I might need to admit that I'm angry. I might need to admit that I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. Like, that I hated being in that situation, or that I thought God had abandoned me, even though I knew he didn't. Like, it's okay to feel the feelings, and it's okay to even talk to God about it, because God, he understands. Right? There isn't anything that you go through that he is not aware of. Even at your darkest moment, he's there. It may not seem like it, but he is. So I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole, because I could feel myself going. But I really hope that you took something from today's tea. And if you don't have tools, that you take some time to identify what are the things that you could pull from when life is lifing, like what to do when life is lifing, right? Making sure that you are, when life is going to take you by surprise sometimes, but to make sure that you have resources, tools, rhythms, routines, different things like that when you wake up in the morning, making sure you have time to yourself, before you go to bed at night, making sure that you honor your time to yourself and to God, to whether it's pray or read your scripture. Like, there's some things that should be a non-negotiable. And so I just want you to, I wanted to support you in that way, right? And to give you some things. And so now, if you're like, I have all these things, I don't know what to do with it, then that's where you come and you book that 90-minute strategy session with me. And you like, listen, life is lifing. I need to figure out how to work the resources that I have, right? I need some help here. And so that's where, again, when I said you got to be okay with accepting help, asking for help, accepting help, leaning into your tribe. Your coach might be part of that tribe. That might be, I need to be in this space. Like, I had a few people who during their one of their worst seasons, they were working with me, and working with me allowed them to be able to walk through that thing with grace and ease and a little less anxiety and just stress and just feels, right? And so we were able to process and give safe space to be able to talk it through. And so again, right, if you're in that space and you're like, man, like I need support, then I want you to book that session. I want you to go to trueheartspeaks.as.me/get started. trueheartspeaks.as.me/get started so that we can get started, right? And we can spend 90 minutes together and have conversation around, what your next steps will be for the next 30, 60, 90 days. Okay. So with that being said, again, make sure you are, you join the inner circle. I'm going to put this up here so you can see it. So I want you to go to iSpeakLifeInnerCircle.com, iSpeakLifeInnerCircle.com, so that you can join the inner circle today. And then the last thing that I will share is, and I'm going to be sharing this every single week, make sure you are a part of my TextFam. Go to 833-447-0492, 833-447-0492. Text the word "hey" so that we can stay connected beyond social media. Simply because if something happens, child, I need to stay in contact with you. Send you a 911, where you at, boo, right? So make sure you take advantage of that. And last but not least, make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel so that you can get the weekly Tuesday Tea with D's. Make sure you hit the button, subscribe, hit the button so you get notifications whenever the videos go live. Make sure you are liking the video. So make sure you like this video. Make sure you're commenting. So let me know, out of all that I shared, what resonated with you, what you felt, right? What you're using, right? What do you have in your box? Maybe there's something that I don't have that I need that you got, right? Because that's the other part, right? Sharing those resources. And then in addition to commenting, you know what I'm going to ask you to do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want you to share this with 5 people. Who do you know who needs, right? Maybe they life is lifing right now and they just need some suggestions of things to do, right? Here's a bonus before I go. Grant yourself grace, right? Don't try to do all the things when life is lifing. You will have to pull back a little bit. And so be okay with not being able to be all the things to all the people, and let all the people be all the things to you. You will catch that tomorrow. Be okay with not being all the things to all the people, and be okay with letting the people be all the things to you. And as a strong friend, right? That word strong, right? As the responsible one, as the go-to person, as the doer, whatever, however else you want to call it, right? I call them high capacity women. Be okay with allowing people to support you in a way, not necessarily in the best way that they know how, but in the best way that they know how, that works in alignment with who you are. Because sometimes somebody's best is not enough. That's another conversation, right? Sometimes what they're giving is not what you need in that moment. And so make sure that what you are receiving is exactly what you need, but also be okay with communicating that. Okay. So with that being said, I hope that you enjoyed today's Tuesday Tea with D, and I hope that you will join me next week on Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Oh, and make sure you let me know how you like this new setup.